I want to just talk to you a little bit about something that is extremely concerning to me today, and that is this, I'm just going to say it this way because this is what I believe, this coming war with Russia and now possibly China. We are setting the world up, and we are on the wrong side. The right side is settle this. Let's have peace. What happened in World War I is happening again. You have the elites who want to redesign the world, and they're going to do it one way or another. They think war is the way to solve this problem, to get away with all of the big changes they need to make. And it is rapidly coming upon us. And at the same time, we are bleeding out on a table, and it's intentionally. It's intentional that all of this stuff is happening. It's not paper cuts anymore. We are severing arteries, and we're bleeding out on the table. Let me just take one thing. Somebody called in last hour, and they were in Kansas, and they said, Kansas farmers are selling their farmland for solar panels, and these companies are coming in. Okay, solar panels are great, but you would have to take almost all of the land from Maine to Florida, all the way over to probably the Missouri to be able to have enough solar panels to be able to power the United States of America. So solar panels are not the way. Maybe they play a role, but they're not the way. And so they're selling our farmland to have solar panels. Meanwhile, that means we're paying our farmers not to farm. I'm sure there are government subsidies that go with this if you have solar panels on your farm. Meanwhile, because there's a lack of food, we're now announced on Friday by the president paying for food subsidies all over the globe. We're also paying coal fire plants to not create energy. If you have a coal fire plant, I want you to see if it has plans on shutting down. And why is it shutting down? And what are they planning on doing with a coal fire plant? So they're shutting down coal fire plants. We're paying them not to create energy. Okay. But we're also doing this all across the globe with USAID. We're paying people to shut down their power plants. Although we know because of AI, we know we're going to have a much bigger demand for electricity than even today in the short horizon. But we're shutting things down because we're creating a new world. Well, what are we creating it with? Well, we've got the solar panels, and we've got some experimental things, which we are paying for. Government is subsidizing all of this stuff. And then if you'll put any of that experimental stuff in your house, they'll pay you for that. So we're paying for the creation, and we're paying for the buying of that creation. And we'll pay you with your house to change to electricity from things that already cost you less money, like natural gas. When we know we're not going to have the electricity, we're paying you. And then we're paying you to buy a car that's an EV. We'll give you an $8,000 bonus. We'll give you $8,000 to do it out of tax money. The government is subsidizing buying these electric cars. At the same time, they are paying for all of the charging stations all across America. Does this sound at all like an idea that will work? When we are hemorrhaging money? It doesn't sound like it to me. Let's go to Brian in Ohio. Hello, Brian. Brian, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
yes.
You're on, sir.
Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Thanks for taking my call, and I've listened to you for a long time, and I have the same beliefs that you do. One of my concerns are that both me and my wife, we have worked for a long time. We've been married for 35 years. We've paid into Social Security, and over the past several years, we've probably put 15 to 20 grand into Social Security, plus what we've put into 401k. And my biggest concern is the fact that, it's a slush fund for them to send to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to get that back?
No.
And and that's our concern, because that's a lot of money that we have taken out of our taxes,
mm-hmm.
and that we deserve to have, paid for our retirement, which we would have rather had been put into our 401k. Not that we've done a very good job of, saving and doing whatever, but that's a lot of money.
It's a ton of money, Brian. But how old are you? May I ask?
55 going on 56.
Okay. So we're in the same area. I'm 59. I knew I wasn't going to, the odds of getting Social Security were very, very slim. So I haven't bet on it, but I'm in a different position than most people. And those who have to rely on it, we're entering a time Stu, we were just talking off the air about Social Security. It's worse off than you think it is. But yet Biden is sending all this money. They are going to be paying for their retirement packages, their funds in Ukraine out of our money, while our Social Security is collapsing. This has got to be put on the plate with the House and the Senate. People have got to respond to this and stand up and say, stop spending all this money in Ukraine. We are going bankrupt quickly, and it doesn't matter. They'll just print more. And we know the results of this. We're in a death spiral if we don't have Congress stand up and stop it right now.
Yeah, I mean, this latest report that came out from the CBO is stunning. I mean, it's stunning how fast this is going out of control. If you go back to the Obama administration, coming out of the financial crisis, right? So 2009, worst year, $1.4 trillion deficit. Really big. Now, of course, after that, the financial crisis starts to fade. Those deficits come down quite a bit as he goes on in his administration. But $1.4 trillion was that first year a real catastrophe.
And almost a trillion of it, $750 billion. That was just in the bank bailout.
There's all sorts of, all those bills made it much, much worse.
Right.
It did eventually come down. But that $1.4 trillion number, that was catastrophic. Catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, right during the financial crisis. What is our budget deficit this year when we don't have any of that going on, right? We've passed COVID. We're beyond that now. I'm not talking about COVID, because obviously COVID's a totally different thing. We're past that now. What's our budget deficit supposed to be this year? The exact same amount, $1.4 trillion, the same number as the financial crisis number. And that is the best year in the next 10 years of projections that they released. Our best outcome, $1.4 trillion deficit. It goes 1.4 to 1.5, all the way down to $2.9 trillion. That's our projections right now.
And projections are already always wrong.
Always wrong.
Is this the CBO?
Yeah, this is the CBO. But by the way, I should point out in that projection, they say that the Inflation Reduction Act will help us, will lower the deficit. That's their projection.
They're always wrong.
So obviously that's completely ridiculous. Correct. Just since Biden has been in office, he has added $6 trillion. $6 trillion to the debt just since he's come in with the stuff that he has passed. That's not like, okay, well, COVID spending from Trump or pre-existing programs or any of that. This is just what the differences are from their own CBO from when Biden comes into office and now. So, $6 trillion. And one more on this, Glenn. The $1.4 trillion number I was talking about, the worst case scenario for Biden, or excuse me, Obama when he came in. Now is our current deficit. That goes up to $3 trillion. By the time that hits $3 trillion, $1.2 trillion of that will just be interest. Impossible to change and at the whim of interest rates. The entire budget deficit from the economic collapse of 2008, 2009 is going to be interest at the end of this decade.
This is why I'm telling you they are marching toward war, because it will they will have to reset the entire global economic system, and they'll have to just wipe out debt. That's what will happen. Except we're going to be in the position of Germany in the end. The world is going to say it was your fault, not on war, but on everything. Because we've already said that to them for the last 20 years. Every ill comes from the United States. So we will be the ones paying reparations. We have got to stop this quick march to war. You need to be on the phone with your senators and with the House and saying, stop the spending in Ukraine. Enough is enough. The president is over in Ukraine today. We just had Kamala Harris say this. Now, this is think of all the times that we could say that China has committed crimes against humanity. We know they killed millions of people, and we never said anything. We know what they're doing with the Uyghurs. We have footage of it. We have evidence of what they're doing in these camps. Crimes against humanity with China. We say nothing. Here's our vice president making an official declaration in Germany this weekend.
The United States has formally determined that Russia has committed crimes against humanity. And I say to all those who have perpetrated these crimes and to their superiors who are complicit in these crimes, you will be held to account. In the face of these indisputable facts, to all of us here in Munich, let us renew our commitment to accountability.
Stop. Oh, my gosh. Do you notice every time she opens her mouth, her lips, her mouth is really dry and you can hear it? Never noticed that with her before. She knows the gravity of this statement. What did she just say? Russians committed crimes against humanity. We tie all of those crimes, I can guarantee you, to Vladimir Putin. We'd never say this about China. We're just saying it now about Russia. And by the way, the Russians have said, you send over a single Western airplane, that's the last straw. That's the last straw. China is now siding and sending all kinds of stuff up to Russia for Ukraine. And we had the balls to look at them this weekend and say, don't you do it. That's a line that you don't want to cross. We're now threatening China as well. Today, you need to get on the phones and you need to burn those phone lines down. You need to get on the phones to anyone in Washington and let your voice be heard. I will not send my son or daughter to fight in any war under this administration or against Russia and China. Stop it. Those funds need to stop. They got to come here to the United States. He should not be in Kyiv today. The president should be in Palestina, Ohio.